I'm a 20-year-old girl who's currently home from college for the semester. This happened a few weeks ago, and I'm still extremely shaken up. I just re-downloaded Tinder after deleting it for the 100th time because I was bored. Being home for the semester was hard, and I thought maybe I could meet someone new. Dating apps are pretty normalized now as a way of finding someone, so I figured, why not give it a shot? I had Tinder Gold, where you can see everyone who likes you, and I stumbled upon an incredibly attractive guy. He was only a few years older than me, and he was my type to a T. Dark hair, brown eyes, tall, sharp jaw, looked physically fit, everything. However, his pictures looked almost AI, as if he wasn't real. Regardless, I accepted his like and we matched instantly. His name was Nick, and he was a senior in college. Surprisingly, he checked quite a few boxes, and I was really surprised by how well we clicked. He admitted he felt the same way about me. I was physically his type, and we shared a lot of similar interests. We exchanged phone numbers, and I initially wanted to rule out whether he was a catfish or not, so I asked to FaceTime, only to be met with a surprisingly defensive response. He got mad, saying he has girls always asking immediately to FaceTime. I responded that his photos did look a little fake, so I understood why people would ask. He said he'd be willing to FaceTime after we talked on the phone for a bit, so I hesitantly agreed. We ended up talking for a lot longer than I expected. I was once again surprised at how well we connected, and I wasn't as adamant about seeing his actual face. But in the back of my mind, I couldn't rationalize how someone so right for me could actually be real. Nick and I talked for about a week and a half and grew closer pretty quickly. I'm not the type of person to entertain multiple people at once, and neither was he. So, he claimed. It became official that we were going to focus on a possible serious relationship between the two of us. Honestly, it took me a little while to realize things were moving way too fast. He was basically treating me as if I was already his girlfriend and was saying some pretty intense stuff. One day, he sent me a long text that said, "I'm so damn desperate for you. I need you. I feel so sick for you. I would be devastated if I lost you. If anyone ever tried to hurt you or put their hands on you, I swear I would rip them apart, just tear their limbs off." I remember my stomach churning at that message, taken aback by the intensity. "I'm sorry, that's definitely a bit much," I told him. "I just really like you, and I should probably take a step back." We finally made plans to meet up in person, and we were calling and texting for a majority of the days leading up to it. The night before our plans, I asked him to FaceTime again. He was reluctant, telling me he wasn't like the typical college guy. He wasn't the typical frat guy, and had what were considered pretty nerdy interests. I assumed he meant personality, because I genuinely liked his interests and found that it made him more attractive. He didn't look like the stereotypical nerd. In his pictures, he looked pretty fit. He just seemed introverted and had eventually warmed up to me. I just needed to see his face and know that I would be meeting the person I'd seen in the photos. When we FaceTimed, I noticed immediately that he looked different. It was the same person, just almost smaller. His face was gaunt, and it was like he was a fraction of the man in the pictures. But I could only see from his shoulders up, and FaceTime can distort people's faces sometimes. I decided to meet up with him the next day in a public space and give him the benefit of the doubt. Big mistake. He ended up being 2 hours late, and I was already pretty pissed off because of that. My parents had warned me not to go, but I was stupidly stubborn, holding on to some false hope that everything was going to work out. The moment I saw him, my heart nearly stopped. I was not mistaken. FaceTime hadn't been off. My heart was pounding as I realized I had been catfished. Nick in his pictures wasn't overly buff, but he definitely had some muscle definition. The man before me was exactly how he looked on FaceTime, the same gaunt face, incredibly thin. He didn't look anything like the man in the photos, and my stomach was churning more and more as we talked. He noticed I was quiet, because I was much more chatty on the phone. He complimented me, saying I looked very pretty, that I looked like the type of girl guys would be scared to approach, intimidating. I smiled politely and said, "Thank you," but I was panicking internally. We were walking around and it was painfully quiet. He kept asking me if something was wrong, and I denied it. When the silence continued, he eventually said, "Do you just want to go home?" I didn't know what to say. I felt like he was putting me on the spot and I didn't have anywhere to go. Then he said outright, "You're not attracted to me, are you?" I was silent. My heart was pounding and my anxiety was through the roof. What was I supposed to say? I didn't want to be rude, but I did feel deceived. I had been thinking I'd be meeting the man on his profile, and it wasn't accurate in the slightest. "Just say it, don't waste my time," he said. I felt sick, he was getting upset, and I didn't have any other choice but to be honest. "No," I eventually said quietly. "I'm not. I'm sorry for wasting your time." "You know what? Just have a good night," he said angrily. "Since I'm not some model now, you're not into me." I was frozen in place, absolutely shocked. I stood there feeling torn between throwing up or crying. The tears eventually came, and my heart was pounding. His expression softened when he heard me crying, and he started to apologize profusely. But I took a step back. "I don't want to talk to you," I said, sniffling. It was like a switch flipped. In seconds, he was angry again. "Oh, so now it's my fault. It's my fault. Have a good night." He stormed off. I was crying as I rounded the corner to head to the parking lot, my hands shaking as I tried to call my mom. I eventually got back home, a mess. I felt awful. I hadn't planned to ever speak with him again, but he called me. I didn't answer, but he kept calling, at least 5 times, and then left a voicemail. His voicemail was a total 180 from before, soft-spoken and almost sweet. "Hi. I know you don't want to hear from me right now, but I just wanted to make sure you're safe, that you got home okay. I'm sorry things didn't end up how you wanted. I wish you the best. Bye." I was baffled. I felt awful for him knowing he was a quiet, introverted guy and was probably hurting. But at the same time, I was unnerved by the fact that he had lied. Someone I thought I connected with turned out to be a completely different person. I knew it all seemed too good to be true. I thought that would be the end of it, but I was so wrong. I was working as a server for the time being, until I returned to school in the spring. I had told Nick I was working as a server, but not where. The morning after our breakup, I was on my way to work. I usually stop at a bagel place on the way. As I parked, I saw I had gotten an enormous text from Nick. "I knew this would happen. I knew you would leave. Yet you saw me on FaceTime and still wanted to go out. Yes, everyone looks different from their photos. Those photos are from when I was dating my ex and I was going to the gym. I haven't been going because I was dealing with my breakup, because she left me just like you did. I only asked you about going home because it was clear you weren't into me and just wanted the typical frat guy. All girls are always only focused on looks. I'm 100% sure you've been talking to other guys the entire time. You would have cheated on me if we started dating. I saw you texting someone on the date, tilting your phone away from me. You're a serial cheater. I'm so done with dating. I wish I never met you." I was baffled. I felt absolutely awful, but at the same time, I was shaken up by his message. I had genuinely liked him. He was the one who lied about his appearance from the start. I had to get to work on time and didn't have the energy to respond, so I left the parking lot and continued to drive to work. When I got there, I started my shift. I was drafting a response during downtime, but I planned to have a friend read it over before I sent it. While I was waiting on a table, I felt my phone buzzing in my apron. I stepped to the side to put in the order and checked my phone. It was Nick. I froze, my stomach dropping. I let it ring and didn't answer, but he kept calling over and over. I eventually had to decline the calls. Then he texted, "Why don't you just block me already?" I was starting to feel more frustrated than anything, and I sent my drafted reply. "Nick, you literally lied to me from the start. You presented your appearance completely different from reality, and I told you I liked your personality. I didn't want you to be that frat guy. I liked that you had unique interests, but you're dishonest about how you look, and then you say all girls only care about looks. Then I guess I can say all men lie. I've been hurt a lot in the past, and I wanted to give you the benefit of the doubt, but I was wrong to let you in." Nick immediately responded, and we started arguing over text. I told him I had to get back to waiting tables and would get in trouble if I was on my phone. We kept talking during my dinner break, and he started saying offhanded things. I could look like that again. Please, just give me 2 months. I'll start working out again. I can change. I felt so bad for him. I didn't want him to do all of this for me. I didn't want him to change. I just wanted to talk to the person I thought I was talking to originally. I told him he deserved to find someone who liked him for where he was at. So now what? He asked. I think this is the end of things, I responded. There are plenty of other women out there. I just don't think you and I are a match. Nick did not like that. He blew up at me, sending multiple huge texts, insulting me, berating me. I literally gasped when I saw them pour in. Then he started accusing me, saying I was the one who didn't look like my photos, that when we FaceTimed he actually found me unattractive but just didn't say anything. He told me I was cold and unfeeling for ending things so harshly. You don't want me with anyone else, but you want me to leave you alone? But you know what? I looked fantastic last week, way better than I did on our date. That's why a girl who doesn't screw on the first date ended up spending the night with me, and we were up until dawn. I'm actually pretty sure you're not as innocent as you say you are, and you're actually getting run through frequently. He went on to tell me I was going to fail in my career field because I had no knowledge of how to succeed. Then he started insulting my religion. I'm Catholic and he's atheist, and he said I didn't exemplify the qualities of a true Catholic, that he knew my religion better than I did. He repeatedly called me a serial cheater, saying I was definitely into having multiple guys at once. I asked him why he was still bothering me and told him to go back to the girl he was with before. I just wanted him to leave me alone already. He replied, she had a nicer body anyways. So I blocked him. After that, I didn't hear anything, no calls, no voicemails. But I was incredibly shaken and on edge for the rest of my shift. I was working both the lunch and dinner shifts, which meant I was there until close. At night, the walk to the parking lot still creeps me out to this day. It's a huge lot, and employees have to park on the outer edges. That means you have to walk across a dark parking lot every night. With everything that happened with Nick, I was more on edge than usual. Just as I was halfway across the lot, I realized I'd left my water bottle inside. So I turned around, walked back in, and grabbed it. On the way out, I bumped into the receptionist who was just leaving too. She's also a college student around my age, and we ended up walking to our cars together. When I reached my car, I went to unlock it and hop inside like normal, but then I saw something that made my stomach drop. At first, I didn't see it, but when the street lamp light hit my car, I saw 2 distinct handprints on the driver's window. My heartbeat accelerated by the second. My heart was pounding fiercely as my mind raced. Was it Nick? Did he find my workplace? Was it just some little kid peering in? Or was it some random creep? I called out to the receptionist, panicked. She got out of her car and walked over. She stared at the handprints in silence. The parking lot was quiet, and the two of us just stood there for a moment. It could have just been a little kid, the receptionist said. The handprints looked too big to be a kid's, I replied, desperately wanting it to be something harmless, some obnoxious kid leaning on my window. I felt absolutely sick to my stomach. Nausea hit me like a truck, and my eyes started to water. I'm scared, I breathed. She gave me a sympathetic look. I wouldn't worry just yet. If it happens again, I would call security. I can stay with you to make sure your car turns on and it hasn't been tampered with. I nodded, wordless, and unlocked my car. I pushed the start button. The engine turned on, fully functioning. Thank you, I said, grateful she was there. Of course, she smiled. Get home safe, and definitely tell security if it happens again. I will, I told her. I pulled out of the lot and made it home safely, but I still felt incredibly uneasy about the handprints on my car. Before my next shift, I decided to check in with security. The security guard told me they had surveillance footage of the parking lot and could check the cameras. What I saw made me sick to my stomach. There was a figure all in black, peering inside my car. He was pressed against the glass, just staring inside. Then he looped around the car and crouched down, out of view of the camera, on the passenger side. That's when I saw myself walking toward my car. My heart was pounding as I watched myself turn around to go back inside for my water bottle, reaching the halfway point of the parking lot before turning back. The figure noticed I had gone back, stood up, and disappeared into the darkness. I was petrified watching it. It had to be Nick. It had to be. He'd been harassing me all day at work over the phone. He must have decided to ambush me in person after I blocked him. Thank God I went back for my water bottle. If I hadn't, who knows what would have happened. My name is Alexandra. I'm 24, and I'm from Manchester in the UK. I'm sure everyone, male, female, and everyone in between, will agree that one of the single worst parts about dating is that you never really know who you're dealing with until you truly know them. Guys you thought were complete knobheads can turn out to be really sweet and caring once you get to know them. It's almost like they hide their idealism behind a moody shell to avoid ridicule or the risk of getting hurt. That sounds very amateur psychologist of me, I know, but it's just the way I see it. However, taking a chance on those kinds of guys is exactly that, a massive chance. I once misread someone and ended up on a date where he kept trying to pour shots down my throat so I'd be drunk enough to, well, you know. After that, I decided to play it safer and go for the nicer, more gentle, proper guys. They might be a bit boring or prudish sometimes, but at least they put effort into dates and you can have a pleasant time. But like I said, sometimes the nice guys turn out to be not so nice. Spoiler, I'm currently in the middle of getting a restraining order against the guy I'm about to talk about. He's already been to court over the incident in this story, so for legal reasons I won't name him. It could actually affect the court's decision if anything online were traced back to me. I know he searches the internet for mentions of me or this event, and while I can make my socials private, I can't exactly make big YouTube channels private. It might sound ridiculous, but this could genuinely be used against me in court. That's why I gave my middle name earlier rather than my real first name. The justice system here can be strange. Something as simple as public discussion could be twisted into provocation, which is insane considering he was convicted of breaking and entering and brandishing a deadly weapon. That's what he did after I decided that, as nice as he seemed, we just weren't meshing. Instead of accepting it, he chose to terrify me. The worst part, he missed me being home and ended up traumatizing my flatmate instead. I had absolutely no suspicion he'd do anything like that. When I called him after 2 months of dating to say I didn't think things were working, the only objection he raised was asking whether I was being hasty and if there was anything he could do to change my mind. The answer to both was no. I'd made my decision and it needed to be respected. After that, he just kept saying, okay, over and over until I ended the call. No one takes rejection well, but he seemed to take it better than others I'd dated. There were 0 red flags suggesting he'd do something drastic, like break into my flat. I remember being on my way home from work, texting my flatmate to ask if she had any ideas for tea. We always got excited about our Friday night dinners, scrolling through Uber Eats together. It was a ritual we both looked forward to. It felt odd when she didn't reply immediately. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Then 15. She hadn't even read the message. Still, I didn't panic. She could have been busy. I figured I'd just talk to her when I got home. But when I arrived and tried to put my key in the lock, the door simply pushed open. Then I saw it. Spray painted across our off-white hallway wall in thick black letters were the words, "You did this." My blood ran cold. Even then, I didn't immediately connect it to him, not until I found my flatmate locked in her room, crying on the phone to the police. Once she finished the call and described what happened, everything clicked. She told me there had been a knock on the door. She checked the peephole and saw a man wearing a COVID mask. Back in summer 2021, that wasn't unusual. People still wore masks regularly, so she didn't think twice and opened the door. He asked, "Is Alexandra here?" She said no. Apparently, that completely derailed whatever he had planned. He wanted me there. He needed me there. But instead of leaving, he forced his way inside. She said he pinned her against the wall by her throat, repeatedly demanding, "Where's Alex? Where's Alex?" She was terrified and couldn't speak. But in a strange way, I'm grateful she didn't tell him anything. When he realized she wouldn't answer, he began destroying everything. He smashed the television, dishes, glasses, picture frames, and windows. He tried to break the washing machine door but only managed to crack it. There were holes in the walls and cabinets, marks that suggested he'd used a hammer or mallet. It's horrifying to imagine what he might have done if I'd been home. My flatmate ran to her bedroom and locked herself inside, staying there for around 45 minutes until I returned. She believes he left after hearing her speaking to the 999 operator. The damage was catastrophic, and the thought that she was only a few feet away from someone clearly intent on hurting someone is deeply chilling. It took a few days for police to arrest him because a friend initially provided a false alibi. Eventually, under pressure and the threat of perjury charges, the friend told the truth. He was arrested for breaking and entering, brandishing a weapon, and making threats. In court, he pleaded guilty. But because he had no prior criminal record and claimed emotional distress from losing grandparents during COVID, he received a 2-year suspended sentence. To us, me, my flatmate, and our families, it felt like a miscarriage of justice. We were scared, truly scared. Yes, if he reoffends, he could face prison, but that didn't feel like enough protection. That's why I'm pursuing a restraining order. If granted, he won't be allowed within 50 feet of me. Any violation would immediately become a criminal offense. I'm hoping that will be enough. Moving flats would feel like surrendering to fear, exactly what he wanted. So instead, I'm putting my faith in the legal system and hoping the solicitor fees will be worth it. Because if the restraining order doesn't go through, if we're left just as vulnerable as before, I genuinely don't know what I'll do. Back in 2018, I was a single mother. After Mike, the father of my children, passed away, I was left providing for my 79-year-old mother and my 2 kids, Tom and Mary. My father died when I was born, so I never knew him. I wasn't planning to find myself a boyfriend or anything like that, but my mother encouraged me to try. Fast forward to 2019. I met a man named Simon. Simon was the kind of man I could call sweet and savage at the same time. He would switch from good to bad in just seconds, and I was sure he never thought straight. One time he called me Aja, and another time he would call me sweetheart darling. Red flag number 1. He would bring random girls into the house and claim they were his sisters. They weren't. He didn't have any sisters. He started to hit me and threaten me if I dared to talk to a man who was not him. One time, my brother came over to my house during Christmas. I was really happy to see him, and I then introduced him to Simon. I wish I never had. Simon glared at my brother, grabbed my arm so hard I thought it was going to break, and then said in the scariest voice ever, "I think I warned you about not bringing other men into my house." I tried telling him that it was my brother, but he wouldn't believe me. I could see his fist clenching. Long story short, our family and friends slowly stopped showing up in my house after everyone witnessed Simon's abusive behavior. The threats then turned into physical attacks. He started throwing things like knives and plates. I would miss them by inches. He even threw me off the bed while I was sleeping. Thank God he never touched my kids. Sometimes I would wake up in the middle of the night to find him and his gangster-looking friend in the house smoking and drinking. I couldn't stay with the kids when that happened, so I would leave them at their grandma's house to avoid Simon and his trouble. One night, I came home from a night shift. I tiptoed into my room and I saw Simon in the dark with red, devilish eyes. He snarled, "Where have you been, you little bitch?" I told him about my night shift, but before I could finish, he pinned me to the wall. His breath was hot as hell. He started punching the D out of me while saying, You little E, how dare you cheat on me?" I couldn't respond because he just kept hitting me until I felt the blood running down my shoulders. After what felt like an eternity, he stopped and went back to his room, locking the door. I sat on the cold floor sobbing like never before. I tried reporting him to the police, but they didn't have enough evidence. This went on for 2 years, hitting, cursing, sexual abuse, and more. My mother knew what was happening because I would drop the kids off at her house with a black eye and a missing tooth. When she asked me what happened, I could never truly hold back my tears. I constantly prayed every day to get out of that nightmare. I had to file a lawsuit against him and ended up losing custody of my own children. When I thought the worst had happened, something even worse did. One day, we had an argument about who would take care of the kids if I got them back. The argument was so heated that he went to the kitchen and then threatened me with a knife. I was so scared for my life that I jumped out of the window and bolted down the street, daring to look back. I ran to a friend's house and begged if I could just stay for the night. They agreed. I started dozing on the couch. After an hour or so, there was a loud banging on the door like someone was trying to break it down. It was him, Simon. I could see blood dripping down his knuckles as if he had fought someone. When he began to scream my name, he grabbed me by my hair and pulled me with incredible strength. I kicked to get him off me, but I was useless. I screamed until after what seemed like ages, I blacked out. I woke up in the hospital with the police surrounding me. One of the officers then asked, "Ma'am, do you remember anything that happened?" My head was so heavy, so I replied back with, "No." The officer took a deep breath and proceeded to tell me one of the most horrific things I've ever heard. He said that my ex-boyfriend Simon was a murderer. That day, he went to my friend's house and he demanded to know where I was. Then he went to my mother's house and beat her to death until he found out where I was. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My mother was dead. That's what you're telling me. The police said that when he found me, he wanted to kill me and dismember my body. I was shocked. I couldn't even speak. I couldn't imagine myself dead at the hands of the psychopath. My poor mother was one of his victims. To this day, I'm still receiving therapy for the trauma, but I'm doing a little better now. I just hope Simon gets what he deserves. And my mother, who helped me all throughout life, I hope you rest in peace. This happened to me 2 years ago. My story is a bit long, so please bear with me. It will have fake initials for privacy, and it includes SA. But I wish to express my experience to give a warning to others. At the time of my story, I was with a guy for about 9 months. For context, he was 53 and I was 33 at the time. I had rotten luck with men close to my age, so when he came along, I fell for him and rolled with it. We will call him C. I worked for a housing company, and C's office was on a different floor, but we were part of the same company. Of course, relationships weren't allowed, so we started dating in secret. At first, things were great. He was sweet and showered me with compliments. But over time, I started to feel used, controlled, and gaslit a lot of the time. He became secretive. We couldn't do normal couple things, and anything we did had to be in secluded places, in the car or at my place, but never his. We were like this for about 9 months when I found out, through means I can't share, that C was married. I knew he had a child, but not a wife. We never worked together directly, and when we were alone, he never told me he was married. I can honestly say I had no idea. I confronted him, and he tried to gaslight me, but I was beyond angry and humiliated. I ended it immediately and cut all ties with him, even though I was hurt because I felt like I was starting to really fall for him. I pushed on, but I couldn't confide in anyone because the relationship had been a secret. I had a 2-week family vacation scheduled, which helped me forget about it as much as possible. But not long after I returned to work, C started texting me again. He showed up on my floor and near my car. He kept trying to apologize and said he would leave his wife to be with me. I rejected him every time and threatened to tell his wife everything if he didn't leave me alone. He became angry and began texting horrible things to me, but I kept repeating the same threat. To prove I wasn't joking, I found out who his wife was and screenshotted her social media account. After that, he finally left me alone. Then came the office Christmas party, which was held on the roof of the building. I kept looking out for C, but never saw him, so I continued trying to enjoy myself until I decided to go home. It was about 11 p.m. when I got to my office floor to call a taxi. Before I could, something that smelled like chemicals covered my mouth. I was dragged into a dark room and pinned down over a desk, the full weight of someone pressing me down. My vision blurred and I blacked out. When I woke up, my head was throbbing and faint music from the party 5 floors above was still playing. I looked around and realized I was in the same office. Leaning against a desk was C, staring down at me. I tried to scream, but my mouth was covered with duct tape and my wrists were handcuffed to the heavy metal leg of the desk. C leaned off the table and knelt over me. "You shouldn't have threatened me," he said before grabbing me and forcing me face down. I tried to move and scream through the tape, but I couldn't. "When I'm done with you, you won't say anything," he growled. I'm going to skip the graphic details, but he assaulted me. I remember crying, the pain, and feeling completely powerless. Afterward, he grabbed my hair and forced me to face him. "You say anything about this and I'll kill you," he said before slapping me and ripping the tape from my mouth. Then the chemical-covered cloth was pressed to my face again. When I woke up, my hands were free, but I was in intense pain and could barely move. My bag was on the floor next to me and the music had stopped. I checked my watch. It was 1:00 a.m. I forced myself to stand and struggled toward the door, focusing on calling the police. As I stepped into the corridor, I heard footsteps. It was one of the cleaners from my floor who knew me. She ran to me and held me up. She called the police, who arrived shortly after. Despite C's threats, I told them everything, and he was arrested. I felt completely numb afterward. My physical wounds slowly healed, but the emotional impact stayed. The incident became known throughout the building. I was signed off work for about 8 weeks, and eventually I handed in my notice. I haven't seen any of my coworkers since that Christmas party. C was charged. His wife left him, and he is now in prison. To anyone who might ever find themselves in a situation like this, which I truly hope you never do, don't let threats, gaslighting, or manipulation silence you. No one deserves to be treated or assaulted that way. Please be careful out there.